Thank you for tuning in. We are Tristan and Michael, and you are listening to Fuse, Transparent Conversations for Marriage, Family, and Relationships. We invite you to join us as we discuss perspectives that are thought about but not talked about. So tell your friends and family to check us out and connect with us on social media. Join the conversation by emailing us info@fusedmarriages.com. Hey, Michael, so what are we getting into today?
Well, we have an interesting one today.
Okay.
Now, it may get a little technical, just a little bit, right?
Okay.
But I think it's going to be relatable to the people of really what dealing with love and marriage is all about.
Okay.
It's another angle to take on it.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. So let me first start off by this. You know, there's a movie, and I watch movies every now and again, but there's this movie called Love Jones.
Oh, Lord.
Right?
Okay.
It's a classic love story.
Okay.
And one of the lines of the movie, the main character says, "Let's roll the clip."
I'm saying it's just that all y'all running around here jumping and hopping, skipping, diving, falling in love ain't Somebody talk to me, please, about how to stay there. Do I love my wife? Hell yes. Is she here? Hell no.
I know how to fall in love, but help me to stay in love.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? Because like all of us know, we get the, the butterfly feelings and, the everything that kind of like just make the, we on cloud nine when we meet
those emotions.
Yeah, just make you feel good. You like, man, this is it. But those die off though.
Don't they?
Right? So like we're trying to figure out, okay, so what's that? How do you like maintain, maybe not the butterfly feeling, but like kind of maintain that love and like go to that next level? Because love, in my opinion, love is you got levels of it.
Okay.
You got the butterfly kind of initial phase.
Okay, phase
then
one.
you got
butterfly.
that kind of sustainment where you're trying to say, okay, I'm trying to make it level
Yeah.
where we at. Then you got to say, okay, I'm trying to get to that stratosphere.
Oh, stratosphere.
Well, you know what? When you're in that 40 years, 50 year range and you still loving that person.
That's awesome.
That's real.
Yeah.
We not at 40 or 50.
Not yet.
We at that 5 year mark, but
Okay.
but we trying to do it too.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else. So like, we not perfect in our relationship, but we are trying to really get to that next level too. Mm-hmm. So we kind of discovered some things. So, since we've been off a little bit, we got the pandemic going on.
Yeah.
But it's still, I do a little reading to kind of make sure, just keep my mind sharp. I discovered a few things that maybe can tie into what love is. And we're going to call this the science of love.
The science of love.
The science of love, right?
Okay.
Kind of different, techie. I don't want to lose you or anything on that, but I think it's going to be good though.
Okay, we'll jump in. What's going on?
All right. So there are 3 components that I believe that are called the science of love.
Okay.
All right. So just walk with me a little bit, all right? And you can kind of ask me questions. We can kind of go through some different dynamics of what it's all about.
All right.
The first one is AQ.
All right. AQ.
AQ, the adaptability of a person, the adaptability quotient of a person.
Okay. AQ, adaptability quotient.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, it's a business term, but we're going to apply it to people because we got to be adaptable as people.
Right.
Right. So it talked about adaptability as a business. My business is my life. Your business is your life. How adaptable are you to your life and to my life? You want to check that definition real quick for me?
Yeah. Okay. AQ. Ability to adapt, normally used in business as it measures business ability to greet change in the marketplace, customer preference, and technology.
Right. So if we're going to take that definition of AQ, right, adaptability, to be able to adapt to changes. So you got to think, right, in a marriage, and you can talk about this, right, there's always changes that are going to happen. Right. The first, what's obvious change, right, when somebody, you're combining 2 people. Right. You got a man and a woman, 2 different dynamics, 2 different households, 2 different upbringings. How well do each one of those adapt to one another? Right. The next biggest one is probably like, when you have kids. Right? You married, all of a sudden now you have kids. You got to, understand who each other are. Then you got kids. That's another change you got to be able to adapt to.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times, you're looking at a person, you want to understand, okay, I like them. I love them. But how adaptable are they? Right? So the ability to be able to adapt to those changes is going to play a big role in your marriage.
Absolutely.
Or in your relationship. You really should pick that up on your relationship. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the sooner that you're able to discover how your partner adapts, the better off the relationship is going to be. Because I think that this adaptability quotient is a big deal because it can lead to some other things, right? So maybe the next step isn't having children. Maybe the next step is a job change or somebody gets sick or parent has to move in. There are so many things that can happen, or a death in the family, that you have to be able to gauge how you yourself first, how do I handle stress? How do I handle change? And then looking to your spouse, how do they handle change? So one partner might say, hey, we've got to move to a new state, and this is going to be an adjustment for all of us, but it doesn't mean you're adjusting on the same way.
Right.
Somebody could become a recluse and turn in and feel depressed while the other person is outward. Okay, I got to go out. I got to do stuff. I got to meet people. They might still be dealing with the same emotion, but handling it differently.
Right.
And if you don't meet each other there, then you can begin going in opposite directions and really not feeling like your partner cares about you at all.
That's so true. That's so true. I mean, importance about adapting and being able to adapt to change is like, you got to be able to be comfortable with changing.
Yeah.
I think particularly when you're in a marriage, in a relationship that's serious, is like, you know what? Life is going to change. Job's going to change. Yep. You may have to move, as you just mentioned.
What NDRE says.
What she said.
The only thing constant in the world is change.
Man.
What
song is that? What's the name?
She's a beast.
Yeah,
Just
she's a beast.
Listen to every single album.
She's cold-blooded, though.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that knowing that change is going to happen is part of the battle, and being able to kind of move with that, move like water, like, okay, we're going to hit this shore. We're going to go this way. We're going to go around this boat. It doesn't, because you can't predict obstacles. You can try to prepare. Like, you can prepare for your future. You can do life planning, but it doesn't mean that something can't come up that's going to deter your plans or that's going to maybe stagnate your plans or shift. You're going to have to do some things. You do have an unexpected pregnancy, or you do deal with some.
At what age, though?
Hey, in any age, it's going to be, you have some challenges, but dealing with that, or dealing with, like I said, a loss of a job or an injury, or all of those things are going to change. I know, but we know couples that have gotten pregnant, and then the wife is on bed rest for an extended period of time. Yep. And then he has to pick up some responsibilities that he didn't have before. Right. So him being able to adapt to that without cracking under the pressure. Right. So what do you think in terms of adaptability? How do we avoid cracking under the pressure?
Cracking under pressure. I think you have to be able to, you almost got to train yourself to say, okay, when something comes up, how am I adapting to it, right? You don't start off with something big initially, right? You got to say, okay, first of all, you know what? We said we're going to go to the grocery store first. And instead we're going to the grocery store, we end up going to, department store. Mm-hmm. And like, that's not a big deal, but like, okay, that's just a slight shift that may have to happen, that the family dynamic, some other store closing earlier than others. So you got to be able to modify your mindset to say, can I handle the little things? Mm-hmm. But when the big things come, I don't think you're going to be any different. If you can't handle little things, you definitely can handle the big things.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think you have to train yourself, right, to kind of like almost psychologically saying, okay, you know what, how am I doing with change before I actually look at my partner? And then being able to understand to say, okay, you know what, I want us to grow as a unit. So let's try to adapt to change together, right? And I'm measuring you, you measure me. We're trying to see where we're at.
I think a big piece of that is communication, saying, hey, this is what's going on. How do you feel about it? And doing check-ins throughout the process. Okay. So at the beginning, hey, there's a big shift that's coming. I have a job change that's coming. Then as you move through, hey, how are you holding up? I know that dynamics are now different. And as you progress, until you're both at the same place, or until it becomes normal. Now this change is normal. Okay, this is our new normal. Things are as they are. Right. But I think if you only check in one time, you're doing a disservice to yourself and your partner. Because even if you check in with yourself one time, you might be okay today. And 2 weeks down the road doing the same thing, you're frazzled, you're uncomfortable, you're frustrated. And if you don't say like, hold on, I need a second, then you can end up going off on people, and people are like, what's wrong with you? I needed a second and I didn't take it. Right, Right. So I think I think it's important to do these changes these check-ins as we adapt and as we grow and as we kind of fulfill that adaptability quotient, as you were.
Yeah. I think, like ultimate goal, right? We want to have a high AQ. And everybody want a high IQ, which is nothing wrong with that too. Yeah. But you want a high AQ. Yeah. And I think, when you're looking for a partner and your partner really y'all trying to grow as individuals, even though you're together, you still want to say, I want to increase my AQ. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to be more adaptable to the changes of life that's going to bring, right? Right. So that's something, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. Okay, so the science of love, the first thing is AQ. So you guys out there, you're listening to us and you say, I think think I have a high AQ. I'm not sure if my partner does. Tell us your stories. Let us know. Have you encountered this? Is there a time when you've had to adapt to some change, where you've had to make some adjustments, where some things were a little bit uncomfortable? How did you do it? Let us know at Fuse Marriages, or you can email us, info@fusemarriages.com. Okay, so there we go. AQ. What's next? The
AQ,
science of love.
Science of love. We talked about AQ,
Yes.
adaptability. Now we're going to talk about EQ.
EQ.
Yes.
All right.
Your emotional quotient.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I mean? Some people call it emotional intelligence. Right? I mean, we have a definition there. You mind reading that? What definition we have on that?
EQ, emotional intelligence, is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways, to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. Whew.
I mean, that's a mouthful right there. Just
is.
kind of take that all in. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we're all working on some parts of that. Nobody has like, okay, just the ultimate, just emotional,
aptitude.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for helping me out on that. Just to make sure, you know what, we're trying to raise our level to our thinking and our emotions to that level. We got like, for instance, compassion may be good on one end, but my communication may be bad on another end. So I got to tie that all together. You know what I mean? And kind of raise my emotional EQ to a certain level.
Yeah. I think this has, like you said, it's packed in here. So we're saying it's the ability to understand. What's interesting about the definition is it starts first with you again.
Right.
And so much of marriage and relationships is being settled in yourself and being honest with yourself. Because we can also self-deceive. We can say, I'm good, I can handle it, when really you're like, I need to step back. I need a second. I need to process or whatever. And that's the same with this, as we're talking about emotional intelligence, is gauging your own emotional EQ or your own EQ.
Yeah.
How do I feel? Where am I? And it says positive ways to relieve stress.
I think that's the key. I think that's the key of just having good emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
really is trying to like, okay, because life is stressful.
Yeah.
Got all kind of dynamics going on, but do I have positive ways to relieve it, right? Because it has to come out. So like if we holding it in, okay, then my emotional intelligence, you know what I mean? My emotional quotient, it's gonna go down.
Yeah.
Because I'm not relieving it. I gotta hold that in. I think our bodies and our minds are made for that.
So talk to me from a male perspective, Michael. Talk to me about what does this look like? Because we don't often hear men talking about emotions and how you manage emotions and how you relieve stress and how you, disseminate conflict. So kind of talk to me about, maybe some fellas out there might relate to what you would say about emotional intelligence. So how would you characterize that? How would you define it for men? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for each man, right? But I think we can generally speak and say, you know what, when most men, we got to kind of get away for a second.
Okay.
Right. So if we're in a stressful situation, most of us try to diffuse it by saying, okay, let me step away. Now the idea, you can't step away and not come back to it. But you know what, we may want to get in that car and go drive around the block about 10 times.
Physically step away from the situation.
Yeah, physically, like, you know what, hey, I got to remove myself. It could be physically, it could be mentally as well, though, right? I mean, I'm using physical in this case right here, but right, and I say, man, you got to go get in the car, I got to drive, that up the street 10 times in a row. I ain't going nowhere.
Up the street.
Yeah, just up the street 10 times in a row. Like, why he coming back and forth? Didn't he just go to that stop sign? Yeah. His EQ is low. You know what I mean? His EQ is low.
He's working through that.
Yeah, he's working through it. But it's like, we got to be able to like diffuse that, right? And ultimately, you want to try to figure new ways to kind of get that issue resolved, that stress relieved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So some of us go, we go play ball with our boys. Right? We get away, me and the wife getting into it. You know what? I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna pump some iron, I'm gonna go hoop, I'm gonna play some ball with my boys.
That's interesting. I don't think I would have thought that going to work out or play basketball, maybe work out, because I like to work out, but I wouldn't have thought of that as like an EQ conversation.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how do I relieve stress? I think a lot of us might like go on a run. I know that I read an article recently that says if you clean when you're stressed out, when you're frustrated, when you're angry, that it helps you kind of work out some of the issues, because maybe some of the anxiety, I'm not sure of the science behind that, but I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
That the activity of doing something is an EQ kind of calibration.
I'm just telling you, the ladies to know this, right? Because like when your husband told me, man, let me get away, let me go to the gym for a second. he not going to like, he ain't getting on his phone and going to go, chat up with somebody, this, that, and the other. He's literally trying to figure out how to relieve his stress. He can't communicate it properly. So he's trying to figure out how to come back to you and be able to communicate that thing.
Okay, let that help somebody. Be blessed.
Right. And I think,
let him go is what you're saying. Let him go play some basketball.
Let him go.
Okay.
Let him go. Let him go. Kind of, get that off their mind. I promise you, when they come back, and you probably have noticed even with me or whatever, you come back, you're like, man, he's like, he's different.
Yes. When my husband is upset and he goes and plays some basketball and he comes back like the sweetest guy ever. He's helpful and everything. He's helpful already, but he comes back, baby, how you doing? How the kids? Thank you for letting me go play. I'm like, you welcome. What's got into you?
You're like, what happened? Right.
Yeah, what happened to you?
What gym you go to?
So I guess I'm saying it as a witness. It works, but also that comes with a trust factor.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So you have to build that trust factor to even begin this conversation. I think I want to hear from you on communicate effectively, empathize with others.
Yeah. I mean, I go to the back end of that part when you said empathize with others. Like, I think as men, we struggle with that because like we could be built this kind of macho kind of, you know what I mean? We gotta have a hard time really connecting. At least a lot of us don't. So we got to be able to like come down to a point where say, you know what? Hey, I'm feeling this, what you're going through. And like, I think that's the toughest part of this EQ for us is being able to connect down and say, okay, you know what? No, it's not me. My woman is feeling this way, or she's bringing this to my attention. How can I connect to what she's saying?
Why is it so challenging? Just help me. Why is it so challenging for men? I'm generalizing, obviously. I'm sure there's some fellas out there that can connect and the roles are reversed. But generally speaking, why is it such a challenge for men to have this kind of loving, endearing compassion for how somebody that they say that they love is feeling? Why is it that she feels something and he just totally is all the way disconnected and looking at her like, I don't know why she's crying, she's tripping, something's going on. Why is that?
I mean, to me, I think the answer is actually really easy. It's like we're wired that way. And I'm actually saying wired because we're raised that way. Okay. In a way of like, you know what I mean, we don't really show or express our emotions in that way. So let's say, you know what, we in the third grade, me and my boys, we get into it or something happens, whatever, on the playground, and you skin your knee. You say, you know what they tell them? Get up, suck that up, man, wipe that off, you be all right. I don't care if you pouring down, got blood coming out your knee, you need to go get 18 stitches, it don't matter. You suck that up. And like in your mind, you start just tying that almost to life principles, you know what I mean? You don't really realize it.
But what about when she's crying? She fell down, she skinned her knee, and y'all just kind of like, the general is if she's crying or she's upset, that you don't seem to care, quote unquote, that it's like, oh man, she on her cycle, something going on with her, she tripping, I don't know what the problem is. Why is that the reaction versus let me see what the problem is? I know a lot of ladies out there have experienced that, so I'm asking the question on behalf of all of the women.
And I thought I just answered it. So it's like,
I guess I missed it. See?
No.
Communication.
Yeah, communication is key. Message sent don't mean message received. You know what I mean?
Message sent don't mean message received. So help me.
No, it's like we start off at a young age of like really pulling back from like having to care like that. So like you do that in third grade, fourth grade, the same thing, sixth grade, the same thing, eighth grade, the same thing. Now you're a senior in high school. You've been doing this like all your adolescence. So now you get your boo, y'all get connected, and it's like how you turn that off. You know what I mean? Like, okay, now I gotta care. You know what I mean? At least my care looks different. You know what I mean? Because it's not like we just say we don't care at all, but it's like it's not the care that you need, right? And like as boys, we're not necessarily taught to say, okay, you know what? Hey, buddy, you know what I mean? Are you okay? How you feeling? You know, this and the other. We don't really like vibe like that. It's like, man, you good? All right, let's roll. You know what I mean? It's like that, and that ends up carrying over into our relationship, and we got to figure out we got to make that turn.
Yeah. Got to make that turn. So
yeah.
If there are any ladies out there or fellas out there, if you relate to what I'm talking about or what Michael is talking about, please hit us up. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your experience has been. Make sure that you email us info@fusedmarriages.com or any of our social media platforms @fusedmarriages, because we know we are not the only ones having this conversation. Why do you not relate to what I'm saying? Why do you not have more compassion? Why do you not get it? I know I've said, you don't get it. You don't understand. Why do you not understand? And I think that's a constant conversation, but I think it's interesting that it ties back into what our EQ is, overcoming challenges and diffusing conflict. Let's hit on that real quick. EQ handling conflict. I'm really curious because I know that there are lots of different kind of negative ways to handle conflict,
Right.
and there are positive conflict resolution strategies. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on how our emotional intelligence feeds into how we work through some things.
Yeah, I mean, I think I speak from the male perspective. It's like we use the fight or flight mentality, right? So if we got to resolve a conflict, we either gonna okay, we want to fight about it, we're gonna just walk away from it. I mean, I didn't seen men get in arguments over you stepped on my shoes.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy like that, you know what I mean? It's like, but that's an emotional intelligence thing that we got to figure, okay, what, over your shoes, man?
Right.
I know they cost maybe a grip or something, but it's your shoes though.
Right.
You gonna fight over that? So be able to digest. I mean, you got to look at that from when you looking at a person you being with, where they at with that.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna play a critical role in how you handle them.
Yeah.
And where you got to figure out, okay, I can't. This person, they got some growth to do. It's not saying we got to throw them away or anything like that, but this is where they at, and I got to figure out how to help them grow to another level.
I definitely think that gauging emotional intelligence again early in the relationship, hopefully before you get married, just kind of thinking through some of these things, okay, how do they handle conflict? Are they, because I don't know that you're saying that emotional intelligence is maturity, but I do think that there's an element of how honest are they with themselves? How forthcoming are they with their faults and their flaws? Because with that, you're able to work through some of this a little bit more. If somebody says, hey, you know what? When I'm angry, I shut down. That's how I deal with conflict. I shut down. Then you can work through that. But if they don't ever say, and they're not even aware, or people say, no, I don't, that's something for me that's like a ting, like a red flag.
Right.
If you say, hey, I noticed this about you, now you can't say it when you're in the middle of an argument or being confrontational or abrasive. But if you're just friend to friend, peer to peer, boyfriend to girlfriend, husband to wife, whatever it is, hey, when we argue, I notice this, or when we're kind of on a different page,
That's good.
notice this. And if they're still like, nah, I don't, oh, just know that you might have some more of that in the future, that's going to be a hard thing to overcome because they're not even willing to receive that information. Like you said, message sent isn't always message received. You can say it with the best intentions, but somebody that is not ready to receive it, you're going to have some challenges in that relationship because their emotional IQ is low.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Interesting. So talk to me some more. What is going on with the science of love? So we've talked about the adaptability. We've talked about emotions, and how important both of these
EQ.
are. What else?
Yep. So we're going to get even a little deeper.
Okay.
We got the AQ. Adaptability.
Yep.
Got the EQ.
EQ.
Emotional intelligence. Now we're going to talk about epigenetics.
Epigenetics.
All
right. Come on.
If I'm saying that right, epigenetics. We're going to put it real clear. Epigenetics.
Okay. I don't know if that was more clear.
Okay, well, I did my best, y'all. I did my best.
Hey,
epigenetics.
We'll get into it and they'll know what you're talking about. So epigenetics, what is it? Why is it feed into the science of love?
Well, this one, I think a lot of people may not know about it. I mean, but if you can look it up, check it out. But this is where, somebody's past experience, let's say your parents' past experiences are passed on to you without you having to go through that.
Yeah.
Like you made good or bad.
Yeah.
In this case, we're going to say maybe in a bad situation, say your parents, maybe, they were very stressful and high tense and it's kind of, were real frazzled throughout their life. That is passed on to you through your genes. It doesn't supersede your DNA. You know what I mean? Not to get too deep into it, the science of it. But it gets passed on through your genes. And now you're carrying this stressful tension. You're like, man, why am I like that?
Yeah.
You got these questions like, man, you know what? My mama didn't trust. My grandma didn't trust. And I don't trust.
Yeah.
And I have it ain't no nothing to tie you back to your grandma to why you shouldn't trust.
This is my favorite one.
Yeah.
Because I think that this is the most, of all of these kind of science aspects of love, I think this is so interesting because it is something that you have to be extremely introspective. Yeah. You have to really think, all of them, you have to think, okay, how do I adapt to change? Adaptability quotient. Where am I in my emotions? But this one, you have to even go to your parents and you have to go to your grandparents and consider not only what you were taught, like we talked about with emotional,
Yep.
not only what you were taught or what you observed, but maybe habits or traumas that were passed on to you that you have to look to your parents and say like,
Deep right there.
I'm that way.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you picked up by watching. It's something that you just picked up because it was in you. So I think that this is the most interesting. So why is epigenetics framed in this science of love? Where does it come into play?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes into play. It's about understanding like where you're at with love itself. And right, the first of all is that internal love, right? First of all, like you said, we're looking at our internal adaptability, our internal emotional intelligence, and then the epigenetics of it. Like, where am I? Like, how am I able to love somebody, and what's holding me back or stopping me from loving? Like, I got to understand all that, right? Then once I understand about myself, I got to figure out about my partner, where they're at with all that. So I think that's where it ties back into saying, okay, I'm trying to love a person and they're pushing me back, or they got these, money issues, or they got this, they can't get a job for some reason. You're like, man, it's like, they smart, they capable, like, what's going on? But then you look back and their daddy couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
You look back and their grandpa couldn't get a job. You like,
remember
what's
that
going on?
that song, Papa Was a Rolling Stone?
Yeah.
So this is what that reminds me of in a way. And if we look kind of deeper, so he was a Rolling Stone, you know, he wasn't there.
Right.
But there's also something kind of like almost a trigger. Like epigenetics is like kind of like these internal triggers that are not mental. They're not something that reminds you of something that actually happened to you. But if you've ever thought of maybe your great grandfather or an uncle or something was, I'm gonna use this example, and so I hope it's not offensive, but I want to get to the point of possibly what this is. But if they were like a womanizer, or they had girlfriends, or they could never stay married, they just here and here and here, and you want it, and then you kind of feel like, okay, maybe their dad was kind of like, he just never felt comfortable in a relationship, never really felt at home, never felt at peace, never was settled with this one person. I'm not talking about divorce. I'm talking about that internal feeling of like, man, I got to get out. I got to go. I got to be moving. She's cute. She's cute. All of that. And then you look at yourself and you find yourself like, man, I want to be this way, but there's something in me that's always drawing me. You got to pray about that stuff, but also recognizing that it's there, recognizing like, okay, I'm looking at my lineage. I'm looking at this passed down. Some people would even refer to these kinds of things as like generational curses. Those kinds of things is just passed down. So when we're talking about it with the science of love, I think it's so interesting because recognizing these generational curses or these epigenetical trends, recognizing, there's something going on with me that I should share with my spouse. But first you have to recognize it in yourself. And then trusting your partner when they're around your family. It's really interesting. So family reunions, you can start to see some trends. You can start to see like, I noticed this about my spouse, but I'm also noticing about his dad and his dad's dad and his uncles and all of that. Then you can have a real conversation. Hey, you know what? We haven't really talked about this, but have you ever noticed? Or did you ever think about it? I just want to put it on your mind. If it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. But just consider it.
That's good, man.
Yeah, I love this one.
And I think people have to be careful. Like, don't be too harsh on your partner. You don't know what you're thinking. Okay, what they doing that on purpose, or they have this thing, but like. It could be deeper than that. That's one thing you want to bring up as well. It could be deeper than just the surface level. Like, man, I can't believe they like that.
I think everything's like that. I think everything's like more than just a surface level. I think a lot of us have to be aware that, hey, there's more to them than even what I know. Because we're constantly growing. We're constantly changing. But we always want to make sure that we're aware of what's going on.
Sure enough.
So let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us for our conversation today, the science of love. We appreciate you being here. Make sure that you connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Check out our website for content and resources, fusemarriages.com. Let's talk about it.
You're listening to Fuse with Tristan and Michael.